Start over. Hello, welcome back to Motive Manipulation Methods. In this video, we're going to be talking about reharmonization. In the last video, we talked about how when we did chromatic and diatonic transposition together, we could take the last note of the melody and use that as like a common or leading tone to modulate to a different key, and then we reharmonized that melody in that new key. So that was more focusing on how the melodic changes we made could affect the harmony. In this section, it's going to be the other way around. So the harmonic changes we make are going to affect how we adjust the motive or the melody, rather than the melodic changes we make affecting how we adjust the harmony. It's kind of similar to each other, and the boundaries of a lot of these methods, motive manipulation methods, are kind of blurred. We're just going to talk more about different harmonies we can use instead of different melodic directions we can go in. So here we have 4 different ways we can diatonically harmonize a motive, a 1-bar motive. So we have this 1-bar motive here, and because it has the note G, we can harmonize it with a G chord, or an E minor chord with a G as the 3rd, a C chord with a G as the 5th, or an A minor chord, A minor 7 technically, chord with the G as the 7th. One method you can use reharmonization is to extend one of the harmonic functions, tonic, predominant, or dominant. In this case, G and E minor would be extending the tonic, whereas C and A minor would probably be extending the predominant. So say you were, and you don't have to use it all in this order, right? So you could have done something, you could reach a point in the music, right, where the initial melody was this, but now you want to reach a nice big cadential like 5 moment. So what you could do is extend so something you could do, right, is you do your first statement of whatever the melody is, and then you reach this 4 chord as your predominant function, and of course the next thing to naturally do would be to go 5-1, but instead of doing that, you can extend or delay it by just repeating that figure with a different predominant chord. So a 2, right? Because 2 and 4 are both predominant, and then 5 would be dominant. So instead of going like to here, something like this, that's just a basic 4-5-1, right? You can delay that and really build that 4 or that predominant feeling by going to the 2 right after it. So we're basically reharmonizing it based on a common tone. And then you reach your cadence point. And if you really want to spice it up, you could also diatonically transpose this to a different starting pitch, perhaps to either match the chord, or maybe you start with a passing tone, so you get something like this. Something like that, right? So basically we're extending one of the functions by reharmonizing with a different chord within that same function. So let's build a new melody. So we're going to start with a melodic idea of having leaps. Then we'll introduce something rhythmic. And then we'll repeat that rhythm. And that'll be our motive. It'll be a 3-bar motive. We're just going to repeat this one more time, and let's do the harmony for the first version. So we could do, because that F looks like it's going fa, mi, which is like 4, 1. So 4 or 2, 1, and then let's do something like this. Actually, let's delay it instead of it being right on the downbeat. Like that. So now our chords are C major 7, then we got a D minor 7, oops. Then we have another C, plain old C, and a C major 7 again, but with the 7 on the bottom. Another thing about this chord is that the top note is always going down by a step, and for this one, the bottom starts to lead that same stepwise descending motion idea. Even though it has that D minor 7, which would be a 2, and a 2 would be a predominant, overall it's just tonicizing 1, right? Let's keep that idea of staying on the tonic for a bit, but with a different tonic chord. So another chord that could act as tonic would be the 6, which is A minor. So we can diatonically just transpose the harmony all down 3 steps until the first one is at an A minor chord, technically an A minor 7. So now we extended the tonic by using the A minor harmony instead of the C major harmony. So let's hear both of these versions. And notice we didn't change anything in the melody just yet. Now that G really sounds like it's pulling down to an F, so now we're reaching the first predominant harmony. So let's continue that. So let's go with, and I like the idea of just keep going down. We could do an E minor. That's kind of like a sequence actually. But instead of doing a full sequence, what if what if we temporarily tonicize A minor. So we're doing a 5-1 in A minor or on the 6, I guess. Or deceptive cadence would be an easier way to say it. So now let's keep the idea of using that melody, but we would probably need to start now on an F or a C, because F would lead to a B flat. So I think C would work better. And we can continue the same idea. Actually, let's just copy this entire thing over, and then we can adjust it afterwards. The last bar is a bit weird, and I think this is more of a 4-bar phrase, so maybe we just take this as a fragment. And then we can do on the E, and that'll make a nice fa mi or fa may in A minor. But this note's not going to work in G, so we can adjust that. Still keeps the rhythmic identity. Yeah, so we just altered the pitches a bit. So this one all we did was diatonically transpose, but this one we diatonically transposed and then we altered one of the pitches just so that it fits. But it's not going to make much of a deal because it still keeps the idea of being skips, right, instead of a step. If we had changed this to be like a repeated note or a step, that would be a bit harder that would sound more like a new idea than it would be like a variant of the original. But because this is still a leap, it's gonna be all right. We haven't used the last bar yet, so let's bring the last bar in. And we probably want to end the phrase sometime around now, so let's do a nice 2-5-1. So that's a 4, and we can extend predominant by doing another, by going instead of 5-4-5-1, we do 4-2-5-1. Something like that, right? And let's just let's take this fragment from the original motive and diatonically transpose it down until we get a nice stepwise motion between the last note and the first note of the motive, or the fragment technically. And we can repeat this one more time. And that C is going to work because it's D minor 7, and that A to G is going to work because that's going to be a G major chord. Okay, but the G works, but the A and the E don't. So what if we do D? Well, the E is not going to work right here, because now we get E and a B. So what if we do B? Yeah, that's going to be better, because that C is going to prep for C major, or we go down to an E. Something like that to finish it off. So let's hear what we have so far. That would be a nice moment to add, like, oh, I don't have a Glock. Bum, 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 bum. Nice little counterpoint idea. And that's a technique called staggering we'll look at later, but I like to do that because it just fills in the gap with something, with material from before. Kind of like an echo or a reverb or a delay. I don't know which one's the right word. Anyways, let's look at what we did. Since I didn't really do a good job of explaining and just started writing. So we have our motive with a harmonic idea underneath it that's generally based on around C major, or the 1 chord, or tonic. And so we wanted to repeat it and extend tonic, but without repeating it exactly. So we took this, shifted it down, so basically did some diatonic transposition, even though it's diatonic transposition of the harmony and not technically the motive. It's still, you can still use that word, right? So it's diatonically transposing down so that C major become A minor 7, and then that completed the 6-bar tonic idea. So now we have pretty much the predominant idea right here, leading to the dominant idea at the end. So what did we do for the predominant idea? Basically, we went, we had a faster harmonic rhythm when you look at it. So if you don't think of these as being unique chords, and just see it as one C major chord, it's one chord for 3 bars, 1 chord for 3 bars, and then we get a chord change every bar. So we increase the harmonic rhythm to make some variety. And on top of that, we took a fragment of the first 2 bars of the motive and diatonically transposed up and diatonically transposed it up again and adjusted some of the pitches to fit the chords we wanted to use, or the progression we wanted to use. And we went to deceptive cadence, which means if we're at the 6, that means we can go back to the 4 if we wanted to, and that's what we did. To cap it off, we did a nice 4-2-5-1, very standard progression. But the important thing was that we could have just done 4-5-1 or 2-5-1, but we used both to extend that predominant going to the dominant. And for the melody, we used just the 3rd bar fragment of the motive and pretty much diatonically transposed it down each time. And the method behind what degree of transposition we used, like what interval we transposed to, was based on making sure that the last note and the first note were always a step apart. When you really analyze the melody, it's gonna be something like this, right? Bum 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 bum, bum. All this isn't gonna matter. And then bum, right? So all the rest of the notes is just to color it in. So because we wanted that sort of like falling stepwise line, that's why we diatonically transpose it to the intervals that we did. The last thing to notice is that, again, we went back to a slower harmonic rhythm. So 2 bars, 1 bar. I guess this is technically the same as this, but these are a bit more similar sounding because they share a lot of common tones versus these. Plus we have 1 every half bar in this one too. And then we capped it off with a nice 1 chord, and we delayed the actual arrival point by a bar by adding this slightly altered rhythmic version of this. I guess there's not really a big relationship. You can kind of say that it was drawn from like this interval is this idea and this rhythmic idea comes from here, but that's kind of a stretch. It's honestly, it's just a random line to avoid do or 1 or the first scale degree until the second bar of the tonic chord, just to make it more interesting, you know? Now that we talked about diatonic reharmonizations, chromatic reharmonizations pretty much work the same way, except obviously it's just going to involve accidentals and notes not in the scale, right? And while diatonic reharmonization, we used it in a way to extend one of the harmonic functions, you can kind of do the same thing in chromatic reharmonization, but you can also use it to modulate, right? So let's again use that motific idea. I'm just going to copy the melody, not the harmony for now. We're going to harmonize it starting on C again, right? Tonic. Now we want to do something that isn't in in C major, right? And I kind of gave it away. I'm going to go to A flat because they share the common tone C. Also, if I fix these notes here, this outlines, or these are 2 chords that are also in A flat. So this is gonna outline a nice, what would this be? La, Sol in A flat. We can keep that G as a 7th, and this B natural I like because instead, you can do this, but I like it as B natural because it kind of makes it sound kind of like it's in A flat minor for just a moment, and then it goes to A flat major when it reaches that C. And then we will return back to C major. So let's hear just this chunk right here. Right? So that's one way. If we did repeat it twice and let it keep playing, it would be oscillating between 2 chords that aren't in the same key, but it would always sound like one harmonic function, which in this case would be tonic, because they share like that common tone. So it's not like it's gonna stray so far away that it's going somewhere else. But that's something you can do. So in the second time, let's not go to A flat, let's go somewhere new and force the melody to go to a different place. So what if this time we do B flat and then A flat? So that means this would have to be, E flats would have to be there, and then we'll have to use, let's do B flat this time, and we'll keep it A flat Lydian. And now we'll use this G, and let's go to, and you gotta imagine that this G would be held over and you can hear it. Like if this was orchestrated, something you could do, right, would be like have the violins do that, and then have the oboe or a different colored instrument come in with this line right here, right? Like that. But since we're just writing in a grand staff, we won't worry about that. Now, we can stay in A flat major, but because we're always move in this section, since we're always changing chords every bar, let's continue that idea. So let's go to D flat. Oops. Be E flat and then bum, 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 bum. So technically, see, right? So this is where like the boundaries kind of blur, because technically this was more, at least when we reached this point, it was more melody driven, and the harmony was changed by that. Plus, it uses, this is kind of what we did last time, right? Where we treat this as the leading tone, and so we went to A flat instead of it being like G sharp, A flat major, or E major. We used D flat major, technically D flat Lydian. That would require taking this part, which was initially in C major, transposing it to D flat, which would be up a minor second, and then diatonically transposing that up in the key of D flat so that the first note is an A flat, and then fixing all the notes. And that is pretty much the same thing as what we already have. So now we have one version where the reharmonization is about, like diatonic, extending one harmonic function, and then in the second half we use it to modulate to a different key. This part right here is effective. I think it's effective because all this time the emphasis has been on this being the downbeat, right? You hear it as bum, one, bum, ba, be, bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, bum, right? But here, now we're making it sound as if it's going bum, beam, bum, be, ba, ba, bum, bum. So we're shifting where the downbeat emphasis is by a bar, and treating this, instead of as this being the first bar of the motive, we're kind of treating it as the pickup to the motive. We could have also done this, right? Just stayed on that harmony, but this will create a bit more rhythmic interest, which is something we'll talk about in future sections. When we shift from what we're doing so far, which was like focusing on manipulations of the melodic identity, to manipulations of the rhythmic identity. Another thing you could do is also just keep it in two different keys. So here is B flat and C major, which is going to clash because of that B natural and C major, right? And I don't think it sounds that bad, but if you really wanted to kind of like avoid it sounding like a mistake, what I like to do is just add some extra notes in the chord. So now, because of all the extra notes in the chord, that B natural is going to sound less like a mistake and more like it's intentionally coloring, just like how these, oh, you can't see me pointing with my finger, how these extra notes in the chord are intentionally coloring the chord. Okay, so this next example is it's an excerpt from a sketch I did a long time ago. It's pretty much based on the previous two topics we've been talking about, which was the reharmonization and chromatic transpositions. So the melody goes like this. And it's in C. At least that's how it starts. But then in the middle of the piece, it's reharmonized. Bum. And extended. So instead of it being in C major, it was reharmonized as E flat major. And then to extend that idea, that motive, and turn it into a longer melodic idea, we took a step down, landed on F, and was like, how can we harmonize that F? And we reharmonized it as not being F major, D flat major, B flat minor, B flat major, G flat major, but as a sus4, basically, right? So as C flat Lydian. And so technically that F would be a passing tone into what would be the actual chord tone. we use to reharmonize, which would be E flat. And E flat can be part of C flat major, and C flat major is pretty far from E flat, so that's gonna sound pretty cool. And it's actually pretty much the same concept as what we did earlier with the C and the A flat. So let's hear both of these versions, the original on C, and then the section where it was reharmonized as E flat and then extended with C flat. And then it went on to just repeat it, but of course if you repeat the exact thing twice, then it gets a bit expected, right? So its rhythm stays the same, but we altered the pitches, and we instead go a chromatic leading tone up this time. So up would be A flat, but instead of treating it as A flat, we treated it was treated as an A sharp, and we go to an A major chord instead. So we fix all of these notes to fit A major, and now let's hear the whole 4-bar phrase. So notice how each time it's not treated as the same scale degree. In this case it was a sharp 4, right, in C flat major. It should have been an F flat, but in this case we did C flat Lydian. And in this case it was, again, it's not treated as a chord tone member, it's actually a passing tone, but it's not a sharp 4, right? This time it's a just a 7, right? So in A major, 7 would be G sharp. Not only does it use a different chord, but it'll sound different because of how it's located in terms of which scale degrees it uses. Then the piece goes on, or the sketch goes on, because I never finished it, by using that E as another common tone. So E can be used as E major, A minor, F major 7, C sharp minor, but in this case, just plain old C major. So what we can do is just transpose this entire thing to C chromatically, and technically in the orchestrated version, it was kept an octave up like this, but we're gonna put it down just for too many ledger lines. Now, it would be boring to go do the same thing and just treat it as, again, the major third, which would be A major. So instead, we wanted to use a different chord. And what I did was, I wanted to end the phrase now, and because this isn't like traditional like 1 4 5 1s, honestly the only way to make it sound like it returned back home would be to just bring it back to C major, right? And treat this F sharp major chord as the dominant or the subdominant, whichever one it sounds more like. But now the question becomes, how do you approach that, right? Because going C sharp to C is going to sound a bit, you know, dull. I guess that could work, but then there's also E, right? I'm going to make this G flat just so it's easier. But I chose to go to G, scalar going up. So it'll sound like it's going up the G flat major scale, and then it'll arrive on the G instead of a G flat. It also sounded like it wanted to go there anyways, because you have E, F, F holds out, F, G, right? So if you look at it from a larger scale, there's also that line. Alright, so why don't we end off by trying to come up with something more fleshed out using reharmonization. So I got this idea I don't know why of doing this, but what I'm trying to think about is if it's better to alternate between the colors or split the voices so that it stays consistent. Because it's that versus doing something like this. Oops. And imagine this was in two different voices. I think I like that idea better, so let me actually make a flute too. Yeah, and there's a little bit of a blip, and we can just fix that by doing something like this. And then we could just R that over a couple times, because we don't know how many times we're going to do it. And let's add some more color to it so that it's not just winds. Maybe we can do something like that. And if it's still a bit too thin, we can do that. Maybe consort it. Oops. Pianissimo, and then on top consort it. Yeah, why not? I don't really like that harp line. And then we can add like a melody now, or a motive in the middle voice. Something slow, right? Just because everything else is fast. No, I don't like E starting on E. No. What if we just start on G sharp? It's too straight, so let's do that. And we'll add some interesting rhythms in the next bar. And then we can repeat it again to make a melody out of that. And then we can keep the melodic idea, or the rhythmic idea, but change the melodic idea. Something like that, maybe. Or, you know, that's too simple. So let's also change the melodic idea there. No, bum. Bum. What is that? Bum. So I hear it being on that starting pitch. And we can treat that as a G. Maybe instead of Lydian we can do just regular C. And so this would probably be what? We're missing a couple notes, so let's fill it in. Let's just do that for now. Probably needs to be quieter. Just fill in that gap caused by that half note. Why not just repeat it for now? And in the next version, we can do, let's do an oboe, keep it the same, but in C this time. Change up the pattern a bit. Something like that. I mean, it's probably best to introduce something new at this point. Bum. No, that's not gonna work. Well, we can treat that B as probably maybe an F, Lydian. And then we can just take this fragment and keep going with that. And create a bit of contrary motion by having the chords go down but the melody go up. Let's see what this sounds like. And then we can just keep going. Let's go up one more time. And notice how the top is now pretty much just in C. And that sounds like we can reach a G and a C down here, and now we're back in C. And maybe that's a good point to return back to the original idea. But on the C. So let's fix this so it's all in C. And maybe we do some vertical diatonic harmonization at the 6th. And then maybe instead of doing a pedal for the entire 2 bars, we change it up just slightly. So we do like and then F major. Or we could just keep this as C, but make it a F major 2nd inversion. And let's double this an octave down. So it's maybe something like this. And then we can keep going, but maybe this time we do it diatonically transposed down so that we get a nice D to an E. Double it, why not? Now this part sounds like it could go to an F. Yeah, why not? And move this up to F just to make it more clear and not muddy in the bass. Bum 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 bum. I just hear something needs to fill that gap, right? So maybe do something like this. Just repeat that. This time maybe diatonically transpose that line up to a third. Yeah, something like that. It's probably too loud. Probably better if we did mezzo forte. And then maybe we could do something with this little bit here. And then let's shorten that fragment. And then we can just transpose that up and then maybe double it. Oops, wait, that should be... There we go. And maybe to make it more interesting, we can have that shifted over, which is another technique. And then maybe something, since the cellos have been playing something very fast for a while, maybe they could have bum. So it's this line, right? But one beat shifted. And then they can probably put on the downbeat. But just for that first bar, it gives them time, plus it just puts a bit more emphasis that, hey, a new line is happening, since it's not just all on the downbeat. Oh wait, no. Actually, I take that back. I like it all on the upbeat. It just sounds more interesting that way. And maybe that's something you can give to trombone. Let's do mezzo forte. Right, and it's been a while since we used that first idea, right? So let's bring that idea back. So what would be a 6 down from E? Well, let's just do this. There we go. And copy this here. And we can just do this twice. I don't know. And then we can just go somewhere else from there. Or maybe that sounds like it's going to reach a bit. Bum bum. Nah, I don't like that. I don't know, but this is probably a good point to stop since I'm running out of ideas. um, so obviously, yeah, it's not like done in any sense. It's just the start of an idea, and of course now the process would be to go back, fill in stuff, cut stuff, add more stuff, extend parts, and take out the parts that were just not as good as when I first thought of writing it down, things like that, right? It's just a sketch. So let's just see what we did. So we started with just an ostinato idea that oscillates on an A major 7. And then after 2 bars of that, we added a melody that was based on this motive with a rhythmic idea that's very interesting, right? One idea here and another idea here, which can be fragmented or used together. And a melodic idea, which is outlined by these leaps and these steps. And then in the second part of this melodic phrase, it's the same rhythmic idea but melodically altered. And then we did some common tone, reharmonization / chromatic and diatonic transposition all jumbled together to create this line, which is the original motive just in the key of G or G Lydian or D major. And then we continued that idea for a while, and then we treated the B as the common tone, and we reharmonized the line in C major and adjusted the melody so that the C sharp is now C, so it fits better. Then in the next section, we did some reharmonizations of this line. Well, first, we took this line and we decided, like, what if we kept this going up in a scalar motion each time and just diatonically transpose it up in the key of C each time. For the bass, we reharmonize each one of these by going down a whole step each time, starting on F major. Since the motivic fragment seems like it was going out into C major, we treated that as a big signal that, hey, we should probably treat this as a big home key, state the motive in its full form kind of moment. So that's what we did here by having it in the strings and just harmonizing it slightly differently with C major and F major second inversion and second time C major, F major first inversion. Melody isn't repeated exactly, right? It's shifted down a third this time. So I guess we technically didn't use the actual initial statement of the melody. See, this is the the fun part about sketching is you tend to forget what your initial idea was. Wait, did I? Hang on. Oh, I did. Okay, so I did mess up. So it should have sounded something closer to this. You know what? I think that works fine too. I don't know which version is better. So let's hear the version that uses the correct original form of the melody. And this one could be justified because that G is a common tone leading to the next phrase. But the other version we did, right, the version that I initially did was this, right? I personally like this one better just because it has that B. So maybe what happens in, again, this is the fun part about sketching, right? Is maybe this one will actually be the melody, right? So let's bring this back here and let's change it so that it fits in the key of A major. Technically A Lydian. And this actually might not work. Who knows? Let's see. Yeah, see, in this one, it doesn't really work as well. Here, this works better. And I probably feel something in like something like this in here, maybe. No, that's a lie. I don't like that. Anyways, that wasn't the point of this. Oh, you know what I just realized? That's bass clarinet. No wonder it sounded weird. Okay, well, let's hear what we have. So this was the whole point of this, right? Was to just show how we can use what we've done, or the techniques we've used so far, and doing like a little example with those techniques. All right. Yeah, something like that. I realized I thought this was 2 clarinets, but it's now English horn, but it's fine, it doesn't matter. Anyways, so that does it for talking about reharmonization. Next time we'll be talking about one more method of manipulating the melodic identity, and that'll be sequences. So that's kind of like a subcategory of reharmonization, because it's just going to be about reharmonizing using a very specific sequence of chords. But I thought because there's so many different types of sequences you could use, it should be its own separate thing. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.